So today we're diving into what feels like a real scientific detective story. It's about a handful of well-known, life-saving drugs that have spent decades fighting some of the world's most overlooked diseases. But as it turns out, these hidden heroes might have a secret second life, a brand new mission in the war against cancer.
Okay, so this sounds like a riddle, right? A parasite that invades the brain and one of the deadliest forms of cancer? What could they possibly have in common? Well, the answer, and you're not going to believe this, might actually be hiding in the very same little pill.
All right, so first things first, let's meet our heroes in what you could call their day jobs. We're talking about a class of drugs that have had an absolutely staggering impact on global health for decades.
And to really get a sense of the scale we're talking about, you just have to look at this number. We're talking over 1.4 billion treatments. Yep, that's billion with a B, donated every single year. It's one of the largest public health efforts in history, and the drugs we're talking about today are right at the heart of it.
So these are the big three, the names you'll want to remember: Ivermectin, albendazole, and mebendazole. For literally millions of people, these medicines have been the difference between sickness and health, between blindness and sight. They are true powerhouses. Okay, so they're effective, but are they safe? Especially at that kind of scale. Well, this right here tells the story. A massive study in Zanzibar treated almost 700,000 people with a combination of these drugs. And the key finding? Side effects were overwhelmingly mild and went away on their own. That kind of safety record is absolutely crucial for any medicine you're going to use this widely. So, we've got safe, we've got effective on a massive scale, but their power isn't just about prevention. Nope. They're also called in to fight on a much, much more complex battleground: the human brain. Okay, let's talk about something called neurocysticercosis. It sounds complicated, but here's what it is. It's what happens when tapeworm larvae actually infect the brain. It's a huge cause of epilepsy around the globe, and you might be surprised, it's not that uncommon even in the US. This is exactly the kind of serious, complex infection our hero drugs are called in to fight. Now, you have to understand, when doctors are faced with something this serious, they can't just wing it. They use these really rigorous systems like this grade framework to weigh all the scientific evidence out there. The whole point is to create treatment guidelines based on the absolute best data we have, making sure the treatment is as effective and as safe as it can possibly be. And this lays out the game plan perfectly. The key thing to get here is that it's a super careful balancing act. First things first, you control the symptoms, like seizures. Then you bring in a drug like albendazole to actually kill the parasite. But, and this is crucial, killing the parasite can cause inflammation in the brain. So you also use corticosteroids to keep that reaction under control. It's a really sophisticated, multi-pronged attack. All right, so by now we've established these drugs are absolute world-class parasite slayers. But what if that was just the beginning of their story? What if their talents were way more diverse than anyone ever imagined? Right. The story definitely doesn't stop there because, in labs all over the world, scientists who were studying these drugs, well, they started noticing something completely unexpected. And this gets us to a really cool concept called drug repurposing. You take a medicine that we already know is safe for one thing, and you test it against something totally new. The analogy here is perfect. It's like finding a key you thought only opened one door and then realizing it can unlock a completely different, maybe even more important door. It's a faster, often cheaper way to find new treatments. And that brings us to the really mind-bending question at the heart of all this. Could a drug that was designed to kill worms also kill cancer? Okay, so let's head into the lab and actually look at the evidence, because this is where the story takes a really fascinating turn from global public health to cutting-edge cancer research. And honestly, this is the part that I found just jaw-dropping. Check this out. A 2022 study looked at pancreatic cancer cells, which are notoriously tough to treat. So, on one side, you've got the standard chemotherapy drug doing its thing. But on the other side, they combined that same chemo with ivermectin. The result was a significantly greater shutdown of cancer cell growth and spread. So the big question is, how on earth can a drug for parasites do this? Well, it turns out it attacks these really fundamental processes that all rapidly dividing cells rely on, whether they're a parasite or a cancer cell. Think of it like a three-punch combo. First, it messes with the cancer cell's power source. It's mitochondria. That leads to a massive buildup of internal stress. And finally, that stress just gets to be too much, and it basically forces the cancer cell to self-destruct. And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. This is a direct quote from the researchers. They concluded that ivermectin works in synergy with chemo and could be a potential new weapon against pancreatic cancer. I mean, that's a pretty powerful statement coming straight from the source. And it's not just about pancreatic cancer. Mebendazole, another one of our heroes, has actually been in clinical trials for patients with glioblastoma. That's a super aggressive brain cancer. Other early research is looking at things like triple-negative breast cancer and even some antiviral uses. Now, it's really important to stress this is all still very early stage stuff, but it just goes to show you how wide this new frontier might actually be. So when you take a step back, what this all comes down to is the incredible, untapped potential that might be hiding right in plain sight, in our own medicine cabinets.
I mean, think about the journey we've been on. We've seen these drugs in two completely different lights, right? On one hand, they are proven, established global health heroes that have saved millions. And on the other, they're emerging as these really promising, though still early, contenders in a totally new fight. And that really leaves us with one final, pretty profound thought. If a simple deworming tablet could hold clues to fighting cancer, it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other everyday medicines have these secret talents we just haven't discovered yet? What other hidden heroes are just waiting on our pharmacy shelves to be found?